Okay, so I'm going to teach you guys how to fill out a monthly OJT. What we have in front of us is a cosmetology monthly OJT, but the way that we fill it out is the same for both barbering and cosmetology. The numbers that you see up top, these are the days of the month. This is a monthly log, but you are responsible for filling this out on a daily basis. If it's not filled out on a daily basis, you can receive a citation. So say an inspector were to come in on the 25th of the month and the last time that you logged hours was on the 5th. They could potentially ask you, hey, when's the last time that you worked? Oh, I just worked yesterday. They'd be like, okay, well, you're going to be cited $150 for not maintaining your OJT logs. So it's really important that we fill these out on a daily basis. What we have here are hours, and then we also have operations. So hours is the time that you spend on a service. Operations is a service or a client. It's the actual act of doing. So hairstyling, that's anything pertaining to hair styling the hair in any way. Perms and chemical straightening, hair coloring and bleaching. You can see that we have hours and we have operations. So that's going to be the same down the list up until you get to laws and regulations, health and safety, disinfection, anatomy. Those are only hours. They're not operations, okay? So when it comes to those subjects, State Board only wants to know how much time did you spend on them, not how many services did you perform. And it makes sense because on things like anatomy, well, we're studying anatomy. We're not actually, performing anything having to do with anatomy. So we're going to log hours and operations, okay? Remember that the rules are 32 hours per week, 32 hours at minimum to 42.5 hours maximum per week. So I am going to, for the sake of this video and simplicity, I'm going to log 5 days in a week, 8 hours per day, okay? You can work up to 8.5 hours per day. Okay, as long as we don't exceed that 42.5 hours maximum per week. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my calendar and I'm going to be logging hours for November 22. Okay, November does not have 31 days. So what I like to do off the bat is I like to highlight that 31st day so that I know I will not be logging hours that day. Okay. Another thing that I like to do is I like to log my hours in my operations in separate colors. That way I can easily see the difference between the two. So for hours, I'm going to be using blue, and for operations, I'll use the color red. So on the 1st of November, I did 5 hours in haircuts and 3 hours in perms, okay? So I worked a total of 8 hours that day. Okay, then I'm going to go in and I'm going to actually write my haircuts. So the 5 hours that I did in haircuts, I actually serviced 5 clients. I spent 1 hour per client. Okay, I said I was going to do operations in red, but I opted for green. Okay, so perms. I did 3 hours of perms on the 1st of November, and during those 3 hours, I performed 2 perms. So I spent an hour and a half on each one of those perms. Okay. So that's it for the 1st of November. I have my hours logged. I did a total of 8 hours in the day, and I distributed the hours between each one of those subjects: 5 hours in haircuts, 3 hours in perms, and then I went in green and I wrote down how many clients did I service during that time, or how many services did I perform. Okay, so on the 2nd, I did 1 hour in facials, 1 hour in makeup beautification, makeup and eyebrow beautification, and 3 hours in hair coloring, 1 hour in hairstyling, and 2 hours in haircuts. That's a total of 8 hours on the 2nd of November. Okay, so in hair coloring, I spent 3 hours and I worked on 2 clients, about an hour and a half per client. I spent 2 hours cutting hair, and those same 2 clients also got haircuts. And then when it comes to hairstyling, so I took 30 minutes per client on those 2 clients. So I serviced 2 clients and I styled their hair in some way, shape, or form after coloring and cutting their hair. I did 1 hour of facials and I was able to do 1 facial, and I did threading. So my client came in and I did threading all over her face, and it took me 1 hour, and that was 1 client, and that was my 2nd day in November. Okay, on the 3rd, I spent 2 hours in manicuring, 2 hours in makeup, 4 hours in haircuts, and 0.5 in hairstyling. Okay, so 4 hours in haircuts, I serviced 4 clients. All 4 of them were men, and I just put gel in their hair, and that was my hairstyling. So for that half hour, I'm putting down my 4 clients. I did 2 makeup procedures, and I did 2 manicuring services. I worked for a total of 4, 6, 8.5 hours on the 3rd of November. Okay, on the 4th, I did 4 hours of perming, 3 hours in hair color, 1 hour in disinfecting. And that was a total of, 8 hours. Okay, so that was my 8-hour day on the 4th of November. Then I'm going to go in and I'm going to what's going on here? Then I'm going to go in and I'm going to write my operations. So 4 hours of perming. I actually worked on 2 clients. I did chemical hair straightening, and it took me 2 hours per client. Hair coloring, I worked on 2 clients and took me 3 hours. Disinfection, it's only hours, not operations, so that's it for the day. Okay, on the 5th, I spent 3 hours cutting hair, 3 hours performing facials, 1 hour disinfecting, and 1 hour doing manicures. When it comes to disinfecting, you guys, initially hairstylists normally, clean up the area when they first get there, clean in between clients, and then at the end of the day. And so you're just going to be, if that takes you about 15 minutes each time or 10 minutes each time, at the end of the day, it's 1 hour after all of those procedures. So that's how you account for that disinfecting. Okay, so on the 5th, I did 3 hours of hair cutting and performed 3 hair cutting services, 3 facials, and 1 manicure. Okay, and then I have my total for the day as 8. Okay, so right there, I am at 40.5 hours in those 5 days. And on the 6th, I took the day off and didn't come to work. So I'm going to highlight the 6th so that I know I took the day off. I was not at work. I was off relaxing. On the 7th, I did the same. If you don't work 5 days in a row and you work 3 days, take 1 day off, then work another 3 days, take 1 day off. Just log according to what you work, always making sure that you're within the 32 to 42.5 hours. So on the 8th, I did 3 hours of hairstyling, 3 hours of perming, and 2 hours of hair coloring. That's 8 hours. And then I performed 2 perms, 2 hair colors. So I had 4 clients, and on all 4 of them, I styled their hair in some way, shape, or form. Okay, so that's 8 hours. On the 9th, 2 facials, 2 makeup, 3 haircuts, and 1 disinfection. Makes for 8. Okay. 4 haircuts because I'm getting faster at my haircuts, taking less than an hour. Let's see, 2.5. So I worked 8.5-hour day. Okay, that was the 10th of November. I had a long day that day. And let's see, this was 1 chemical hair straightening and 5 color retouches. I had another long day on the 11th and worked 8.5 hours. I did 5 haircuts. I did 4 tints and 1 perm set. Okay, on the 12th, I want to go ahead and do an entire month for you guys. This day I did all facials and half an hour of disinfecting in between clients. 8.5-hour day, and I performed 8 facials. I want to finish a whole month so I can show you how to close out the month. So I have done, those are my 5 days, and I took 2 days off on the 13th and on the 14th. Okay, so we'll say I did 3 hours. Oh, let's delete this. Okay, 3 hours of hairstyling, 1 perm, and 4 hours of hair coloring was a total of 8 hours per day. And I did 3 blow dries, 1 perm, and 4 hair colorings.